Shanks one-shot kid, lads. Shanks one-shot kid, alright? He's definitely on Emu's level. I don't care what anyone says. He is Emu level. We're talking about this right away. We're skipping the orc stuff. I don't care about the orc stuff. We're going back to this some other day. Right. Shanks one-shot kid. Also, man, I'm telling you right now, Ben Beckman could do what a kid did in his sleep, bro. Ben Beckman's going to be like Zoro. Like, we're going to see where Zoro is going to be by end of series by Ben Beckman. But can we actually talk about Zoro real quick? We'll move back. I'm going to move back a little bit. And we're going to talk about Zoro real quick here. Because to me, right, Shanks is obviously Mihawk's rival. And I'm not going to compare this feat to Mihawk because obviously, yeah, this is a big feat for both of them. Because even if Mihawk is weaker than Shanks, he's not too much weaker than Shanks. So he's like definitely comparable. And we're seeing Shanks one-shot a 3 billion berry man. Man, Mihawk's going to do that as well. But more importantly, Zoro has to be on this level, right? Zoro has to be on this level by end of series, right? He has to be on the level of Shanks and Mihawk by end of series. And I haven't talked about this before because I thought Zoro was close enough at the moment, but no, he's not. There's still way more to go. I think him fighting Shiryu might be very, very likely soon enough. We saw in this chapter that Blackbeard's ship is on the way there. And I think, if anything else, this hints at the level that Shiryu and Mihawk and Shanks are at. Maybe Shiryu isn't exactly there. Maybe he's slightly weaker than both of them. So, like, beating Shiryu will put Zoro on the level of Mihawk and Shanks. And then that's when we'll see them meet and all the cross-guild stuff happen. I'm really excited. Because this could mean so much. And I don't know, bro. I know we're talking about Zoro a lot here. We'll move on to Shanks later on. But I have a lot of topics to talk about when it comes to this chapter. Mainly speaking here, right? This is a whole new ceiling for One Piece, right? Because obviously, as you know, in my top 30, I put Shanks and Emu on the same level. But this convinces me even more that that's the case. Because if Shanks is that strong, imagine we have him being taken out by Blackbeard, right? That's going to put Blackbeard on a whole nother level. Now, I don't actually think Blackbeard's taking out Shanks. I think Blackbeard's taking out Emu. I've said this a million times. Right? I've been like, what's going to happen is, right, we have this big fight against the Emu. And then at the last minute, Shanks just kills him. No, sorry. Blackbeard just kills him. His hand goes right through. You see the black aura just surrounding Blackbeard's hand. And it's just some brutal stuff we see. And then that's when the world is submerged into complete chaos as the quote-unquote god has been trampled by chaos, right? In Marshall D. Teach. And then if it isn't Rocks, if Blackbeard isn't some form of Rocks, and he's just carrying on his will, then we've got Rocks' dream realized that way. Completely by taking out Emu. And then we still get to have Shanks involved in the story, but he took out someone a level above Shanks in story importance. So it's like, okay, this is going to be mad, right? This is really going to show Blackbeard's potential the same way taking out Shanks would. I feel like it has the same feel, but in a way you don't have to take out Shanks. Yes, it doesn't have the emotional feel that it would if it happened to Luffy, and that wouldn't. But it brings the world into chaos, right? And I think that's the big way to end the final arc, to have the final arc begin with Blackbeard taking out Emu. I think will be perfect, or the final fight. And I think this has convinced me even more, because to me, Shanks being on this level shows that I think he's as strong as Emu, right? And now I'm just convinced that this is going to go down, and it's going to be so good, man. It's going to be absolutely amazing. I'd also like to point out, we're going to keep talking about Shanks again here, but I want to talk about Yasopp. We see Yasopp knows Dorian Broggy, which is very, very interesting here, because obviously Usopp's relationship with Dorian Broggy and the fact that they are the linchpin for his entire ambition to be this brave warrior of the sea. They are the vision of the brave warrior of the sea. So I think it's interesting that we have Shanks, Luffy's ambition, Yasopp, Usopp's dad, knowing, you know, Dorian Broggy, these two characters who had such a huge impact on Usopp in particular, but also had a semi-important impact on Luffy, right? Because they are similar to him, they get along with him, and Luffy helped them kind of rekindle that. So I think it's going to be interesting to see if they switch sides, and I really want to. I think what's going to be important here, and what might be really a really big moment for Usopp's arc, is that he is the one that makes them switch sides, right? Not Luffy, not Zoro, not Sanji. Usopp is the one that makes them switch to Luffy's side, because we see how attached they are to Shanks, and obviously you could say, Shanks will lend them to Luffy. They'll be like, look after my boy while he's going to Laugh Tale or something. But no, no, no. I think they're going to voluntarily switch sides because it's something Usopp does. And I think that's going to be the big moment for Usopp where you see he truly is the brave warrior of the sea. And this isn't going to be some God Usopp stuff. This isn't going to be a joke. It might turn into a joke, but it will also be somewhat serious, right? It could be a joke entirely, but I do think there's going to be some seriousness to that moment because they want to show how big of a improvement and how big of a brave warrior Usopp is now compared to where he was when he was originally at Little Garden. And we might have him confront his dad. We might get some really interesting story for that. And I'm sure they'll give a reason that he wasn't around for his wife's death, and we'll feel sympathetic towards Usopp, and he couldn't face his son, and he wanted to get beat up or something. It's going to be something like that, right? He wanted to get reprimanded. He didn't want to face him until he got reprimanded or something. I have no idea, right? But more importantly, I think Usopp is going to be that core person to bring Dorian Broggy onto Luffy's fleet instead of Shanks's. And that's my big opinion. Either there or like Hyrogen gets onto the level of Dorian Broggy, but I don't think that is impactful, to be honest with you. And I'm excited to see even a clash between Usopp and Dorian Broggy. Or he was more pals with Dory, wasn't he? From what I remember. Or was it Bro? I can't remember entirely which one Usopp kind of was more friends with in that sense. But I think Usopp has to clash with one of them, bro. He has to. I think it'd be so cool to see. And I think all these Shanks moments are just compiling together to make me really excited for what's to come next. I also think we might see him in Elbath, right? We might see him in Elbath because we know he's keeping tabs on Blackbeard, and he thought he was going to be in Wano, which is interesting because that's what we were theorizing, right? A lot of people were saying, he's going to show up at the end, or like Shiki's going to show up. So it was interesting to see that being shown off, that Shanks also had that idea. But something I wanted to point out, and why I think he might be going to Elbath, is because we see in this moment that Shanks reads a piece of paper. We think he's looking at stuff about Kid because he's talking about Kid while he's reading it. But I honestly think it's one of two things, right? It's either the newspaper article that says that Luffy kidnapped Vegapunk and he knows more about Vegapunk and he's a bit worried or something, or it's something to do with the hero incident and Blackbeard taking Kobe or Blackbeard killing Law or something like that, right? And in that case, he's either going to go to Full of Lead Island or he's going to go to Egghead, right? It could be something to do with Garp. Maybe Garp got it. Maybe Garp's dead. Maybe Garp's dead. Something. Garp could have been incapacitated or beaten by Blackbeard or something, and that might be what it is. But I think Egghead's going to be explosive. We already saw in the last chapter them talking about like tomorrow's going to be crazy. Things are going to go down. I think we're going to get some revolutionaries showing up. I think we are going to have, Shanks show up. Not even if we forget about Shanks, I think Blackbeard's definitely going to show up at some point. And probably a lot of Marines. We see Dolls showing up. Hopefully Smoker shows up. I want Smoker to actually be involved in the story again. He hasn't been in the story since Punk Hazard. And I kind of, people, obviously we all like Kobe. We want Kobe to be this big final challenge as a Marine for Luffy. But Smoker's the OG, man. He's the guy who was chasing after Luffy from the Grand Line. And he doesn't get as much respect, his relationship does not feel as real as Garp and Rogers did, and Garp and Rogers only had like 2 or 3 scenes together, but you could feel that connection. But because we see every moment of Luffy's journey, you don't feel the same connection with any Marine for Luffy, right? Now, if Law turns out to be a Marine in disguise, that could definitely be something you could say, like that's a big connection there, and maybe Law is the next Garp and we just haven't realized it. But also, this chapter has made me realize something as well about Kid, right? Because despite him getting completely one shot, we haven't talked about him enough. Also, before we talk about Kid, I wanted to say Killer is really the best character on his ship. I'm sorry, that anime episode was perfect for him and his characterization with Kid. And everything he does, he's like Zoro. If he's to me, him and Zoro are very similar in how they treat their captains, but Killer is even more fond of Kid than Zoro is of Luffy, right? And I feel like you can feel that partnership and that connection. And just even the fact that he got in the way for Kid, and he's just the best character on that ship. And I don't care what anyone says, he really is. And Killer's great. I think Wano has endeared me to Killer quite a lot, and especially a lot. And I think it hasn't endeared me to Kid as much, if I'm going to be honest with you. It also, the fact that he got one shot by Shanks makes me think Big Mom is definitely still alive, because there's no way Big Mom, who is definitely on the level of Shanks, could give Shanks a shit ton of trouble, right? Shanks is not going to one-shot Big Mom, right? He's not even going to two-shot Big Mom. It's going to be like a 10-day affair, like the Jinbei and Ace thing, except Big Mom will fall and Shanks probably won't. But it would be a long-ass fight. It would be. So I think it's done. I also think, man, Law is so far above this guy now. I'm sorry. Alright, because Blackbeard's comparable to Shanks. Not comparable in the sense, but Shanks is probably way, way above him. But they're in the same tier, right? They're Yonko caliber opponents, right? And if Law isn't getting one shot by Blackbeard, mad. The kid is just shit. Alright, Kid is just done. But here's my thought process, yeah. I just think what happened was, like, he saw Law got popular and he was like, let's switch everything up. I think originally Oda had planned to give all the Doflamingo backstory, the Dressrosa stuff. He might have even had a different character be attached to it, but all of the similar character beats were for Kid. But then Law got popular, so he just switched the backstories around. And so now Kid's useless and Law's the big important character. Which is so true, to be fair. I don't know, man. There's a lot to be said. And even there's a whole debate going on about Roger and Shanks. And he has to be stronger than Roger, alright? He has to be, man. He's Roger's protege. He's the person Roger entrusted into the new era. He has to be. But the one problem I have with that is that I didn't feel that same level of power that I did. Like when Roger and Whitebeard clashed, I didn't feel that level of power, right? It felt similar to Luffy versus Kaido. I felt like Luffy was on a similar level to those two now. But Shanks, when I saw this chapter, he felt a level above. So Shanks is either far and away above Kaido, Whitebeard, and Roger, or the betrayal of Whitebeard and Roger just wasn't big enough, in my opinion. Because if they're similar in strength, Whitebeard and Roger were completely undersold in that final clash that we saw in the flashback, because it just wasn't nearly as crazy as this, alright? And now obviously we might get some more Roger feats and some more Whitebeard feats, because if this was happening, right? If this happened with Whitebeard, like if Whitebeard did this in Marineford or something similar in Marineford, like I don't feel, obviously he was a lot weaker, he was a lot older, but I just, the difference in power between the moments of anything in Marineford or anything in the flashback for Roger and Whitebeard compared to Shanks, like I feel the power of Shanks, right? So I'm very interested to see where this goes and how, if Shanks is like that far superior to them too, what we're gonna see going forward. But yeah, I don't know. I'll probably talk a lot about this later on. I have a lot more to say about Dory and Broggy, and I'm really happy they brought them up to the higher standard. Also, no, but this is, if anything else, this has shown me that we need to have an on-sea battle for Luffy versus Shanks. Like, just think about how hype this moment was. To see both crews showing their best on sea, like we could very clearly see the speed feats of Sanji, Zoro, and Luffy, and speed feats and just even hockey feats for these characters, because if they're moving the sea and if the sea is being affected, that's a higher level of Conqueror's hockey in my opinion. And I think it would be a very, very clear and easy way to show off the abilities of both these crews to a degree that I would would just be so exciting. And but the only thing I'm worried about with Egghead is that it's elevating the stakes to a degree where I don't think we can have that casual fight between the two pirate crews anymore. So I'm a bit confused how this is going to play out, which makes me worried that the Blackbeard and Shanks thing is going to happen before Luffy sees Shanks, and I don't want that to happen. But this chapter was absolutely crazy. It was insane, wasn't it? Shanks top 1, boys. Shanks top 1.